Tag TV and Tag Radio be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Next time you're at the office, take a moment to see something that most of us overlook every day, the obvious. Office equipment, cable, satellite, telecom communications, office and personnel electronics, air conditioning. What's obvious? Electronics across industrial, commercial, and residential environments depend on an electrical plug and socket that was invented in 1904. That's right, and that third ground prong, that was added to reduce electrical shock, a grand advancement. But wait a minute, that happened in 1928. The obvious, that is often overlooked? While electronics continue to grow increasingly more sophisticated, the grid powering them is seriously antiquated. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, June 26, 2012, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. Shocking to some, however, the fact is we operate our business and homes using a chaotic power grid that puts each and every electronic technology we depend on at risk. Up to the Tech Talk, the future of electronic protection, and how you can act now to extend the life of your valuable electronic equipment as we meet Jeffrey Spence, President and COO of Innovolt. Jeffrey joined the company as top executive in 2010 after more than 15 years in key executive and corporate development roles in worldwide energy, finance, telecommunications, and technology companies across 5 continents and dozens of countries. In addition to his leadership of Innovolt, Jeffrey continues to consult the industry in high-level management functions such as sales, finance, technology, and international business development. A top speaker, he has appeared at Comdex, Networld Interop, the Homeland Security Summit, and the International Auto Body Congress and Exhibition, and has counseled policy groups, including the United Nations, the European Union, and a host of other government and business groups. Advanced technology that provides intelligent electronic protection. Tino looks into the future of electronic protection and asks the tough question to you. Are you as protected as you really should be? Find out as we Tech Talk the answers you need to know with Jeffrey Spence, President, COO, Innovolt.
Jeff, thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, Innovolt, congratulations. You're a top 40 Georgia Technology Summit company, and we appreciate you participating in that. We're actually gearing up for next year's summit already. We've got a couple speakers lined up that we'll announce shortly. But I think a good place to start would be talking about what your company does and how you got into the business.
No, fantastic. Innovolt is a electronics protection. A fancy term for power protection for the new generation of electronics. And what we do is we provide power protection technology that extends the lifespan and reliability of electronic equipment.
And how did you come upon this as an area? Was it something that wasn't being done? I know there's some. You and I've had this conversation before, but for a listening audience, there's some perception that there's surge protectors out there, but I know that's a narrower scope than what you guys are doing.
That's correct. The genesis of our involvement here was really our founder, Deepak Devan, stumbling on real data from the grid, where he aligned basically the disturbances that were happening to failures of electronics, and found out that surge protection, what we'd all been purchasing for decades and decades since the early 70s, was really only hitting a very small, I'll say, constituency of these damaging disturbances. So it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 out of every 200 disturbances was actually a surge of some sort. So he went feverishly at work to try to solve it. See if he could solve it. He did, and voila, there was a market for us. So we were very fortunate over the course of the last decade of their developments and whatnot, putting product together And we're now sitting on something that works tremendously well to isolate all these electronics from these disturbances on the grid.
And it sounds like with that definition that you've broadened your customer base. So who are your prime customers?
Now, our primary customers, and it's nice to be able to say this, is anybody who owns, operates, or has to service electronics. And I think I'd probably side more the more attractive one, the people on the latter end of it. If you're responsible to make sure that electronics run, you love us. So we sell to major OEMs that own their service. We sell to big service organizations in a number of different industries. So your Ricos and Konica Minoltas and big companies like those that have got fleets of equipment out there, and it costs a lot of money to keep those things going.
And the current landscape for power protection, I mean, it's been a need for quite some time with the grid, but is there more of an interest at this point in time, and why, if so?
Yeah, I think the major driver is, while we're talking about how smart our founders were in figuring this stuff out, the reality is that you go back 20 years, the demand wasn't there. We've seen since 1980, 85, 90, really, such an increase, an exponential increase in the sensitivity and the complexity and the density of electronics. So whereas our washer and dryer used to be just an analog switch, you'd flick it on and water would start pouring in and things would start turning. Now it's this complex screen with all these buttons and all the rest of the stuff. And so it's been a combination of stumbling onto some great information on the grid and what's happening, but also figuring out what or why is it actually an issue for things. And so the current landscape is really based on stuff that existed. These channels took 20 years to build, and they were built around things like battery backups, your UPS systems we buy, the surge protectors, and these types of things that do exactly what they're supposed to do. They just now are only covering a smaller piece of the bigger picture because of the increased complexity in electronics.
Did this originally, was this developed at Georgia Tech and then pushed out from there? I think I recall that, but I could be wrong.
Yes, it was. Deepak was a professor at Georgia Tech and surrounded himself with some tremendously smart tech engineers and was able to get this whole thing done in a chipset so that all of this remediation and all this great work was being done at something that was a fraction of the size and cost as it was in the past. So Georgia Tech was the primary author of this technology.
And it sounds like it's changing how people are thinking about manufacturing in terms of equipment. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's beginning to. I think it's quite a large audience to address, and so I think our customers are now, I'll say, acutely aware of the things that are happening because the stuff is running better. And so whereas before, I'd like to say that everybody has such a heightened degree of acumen, or that frankly before I got here that I knew, but I didn't, until you start seeing material changes to the way things run or how long the equipment lasts or service costs going down. Now people are understanding, wait, I need to build these things into my electronics. I need to have this kind of technology associated with everything that I deploy. That wasn't here before. So it's moving quickly from our perspective, but globally it's still a long road ahead before we get everybody to understand that.
Market penetration isn't quite up to 100%, doesn't sound.
Not quite there. We're closing in on it, but we're just not quite there.
So, from a standpoint of the top 40, did you get any kind of push from there in terms of getting recognized in that? Have you seen, is there more visibility around the company at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, that was an enormous uptick for us. And, I think a lot of it is just the sheer curiosity. I mean, people aren't going to pick the phone up and say, hey, I saw you on top 40, I'll take 1,000, whatever it might be.
Right.
But people who knew they had problems with power and those things weren't being addressed with current technology, it just completely opened their eyes. And I'd say that. How about this? It opened their ears. It put them in a position to say, these guys, they've seen a lot of technology come through here. They selected Innovolt for a reason, and just that credibility that comes out of TAG and the supporting organizations was so high that it got us in the door with places that frankly would have taken us a year or more to do. So tremendous wind at our back.
Time for one more question. all of our, generally our listeners are interested in the whole funding arena. So are you guys privately funded, or have you gotten some angel funding or venture? And, how difficult has that been, if so?
Well, ours is a little interesting because we are really, I'll call it friends and family. But it's a very sophisticated friends and family, and it's not a small number. And so we've really passed the angel and venture stages, and we're actually going after the growth stages right now. Okay. A lot of that, again, a lot of that's been because of the support of guys like TAG. I'm just being very frank. There's been a good support mechanism around here to expose our name to other people who'd want to contribute capital to us, whereas we may have had to go after, I'll say, quote unquote, experts in the venture market to find the funding before. Just the brand recognition and the cachet of Innovolt around Atlanta because of what's gone on has really helped, I'll say, fill our financial coffers. The next phase is growth, and we would take on probably a significant later year institutional round to really take us from where we are right now into the next stratosphere.
All right, Jeff, well, I'm out of time, but thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today, and congratulations on the progress your company's making.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.